We spent this week learning about fractions, decimals, percentage, converting between these three types of numbers, and then increasing and decreasing by percentages. Starting off right at the beginning, we had the basics of what actually is a fraction. Here you have an example of a fraction next to you, 2/5. We know that fractions make up a part of something, they are a part of a whole. And here, in this example, the 2 is the number at the top, the numerator, and the 5 is the number at the bottom, the denominator, and these are split by this line here, which shows that we're dividing 2 divided by 5. So if you see 2/5 like this, or you see 2 divided by 5 like that, or 2/5, 2, /5, whatever you want to call it, these are all the same number. So please don't freak out and think like, whoa, do these mean different things? They don't. It's just that they're written in different ways. So from there, we went on to changing between decimals, percentages, and fractions. And I got a question as to why we actually do this. And a lot of it is just context related. Sometimes you need a number to be expressed in a certain way for it to make sense according to the situation or what it is that you're trying to do. So if, for example, you walk past the Eka and it was like, oh, this is 0.23 off, you would be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But if I told you it's a 23% off sale, that would be more logical in the situation. Now, changing between decimals and percentages is relatively easy. It didn't seem like anyone had too much trouble with it. I always kind of like to think of my values here, if I have like 0,00, that this represents my 100%. So if, for example, I had 0,75, this would be 75%. If I had 0,02, this would be 2%. If I had 1,23, this would be 123%. So no one should have had too much issue with that. But when it comes to converting to fractions, sometimes people struggle with this. I think the original part, if you're trying to convert to a fraction over 100, is not too bad. Here, like 23% is 23 over 100, or 5% is 5 over 100. That's fine. But as soon as you need to take this and change it into a simplified fraction, some people can step back from that and be like, whoa, how do I do this? Now, we can simplify fractions by finding the highest common factor between the numerator and the denominator. Factors are the numbers that go into it. So like the factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. Those are the numbers that can go into 10. Here, if I'm looking at 5 and 100, the factors of 5 are 1 and 5. There are a lot of factors of 100. But here, basically, the biggest number that can go into 5 and 100 is 5. So if I divide each side by 5, I get 1 over 20. Here at the bottom, I've got 12 over 100. If I look at the highest possible number that can go into 12 and into 100, in this case, it's 4. So if I divided 12 by 4, and if I divided 100 by 4, I would get 3 over 25. Now, some people struggle to see this, and a good way to improve this is to, and I know it's a bit lame, but go back and practice your multiplication tables, practice finding factors of numbers. But here, if this didn't come to mind for you straight away and you didn't see that this was 4, there is absolutely no shame in starting off with an easier factor that you see. So something that I would see straight away in this is that 2 can go into 12 and 2 can go into 100 because they're both even numbers. From there, we went into increasing and decreasing and calculating percentage changes. So if we go to an example of this, we have Mr. W. He did an IQ test, and his score was originally, his old score was 176. In the new score, he got 207. what was the percentage change, and is this an increase or a decrease? This is an important question to ask because whether it's an increase or a decrease will impact what we think the original amount is. I feel like this is an increase because they're talking about his old score being 176 and his new score being 207. So if his old score was 176 and his new score was 207, the amount of change is 31. This is the difference between 207 and 176. The original amount is 176. And then I'm going to multiply this by 100 so we can work out what the percentage change is. So 31 divided by 176 times 100 is 17,61%. This is our percentage increase in Mr. W's IQ. I've got another example here for you. I'm going to pause it. Well, I'm not going to pause it. You should pause it. You should pause the video, try and solve this, and when you press play, I'll have the answer up for you. So you should have gotten 27.5%. This is a percentage decrease. He is taking longer to get to work than what he used to. Our next example, again, let's do the same thing. You give it a try, pause it, try and work it out by yourself, and then let's check out the answer together. You should have gotten 2.14% for this change. So hopefully this was a nice recap for you to explain what it is we did this week. There's a few links in the description of some maths games that you can play if you want to work on specifically converting between fractions, decimals, and percentages, which can be tricky, as well as some equivalent fraction simplifying fraction stuff. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Hey, da!